Hello, everybody, and welcome to We'd Rather Be Reading. I'm Jerica.
And I'm Leah. How are you?
I'm great. I've been on vacation for a whole week in the Maldives, and it was sunny.
And I am not at all jealous. I am only happy for you. And I have not at all been, wishing for a dislike button on Facebook and Instagram to dislike all of your pictures. And
report inappropriate.
Yeah, I did hover over that button a few times, but no, not at all jealous. It's only minus freaking frigid here.
Yeah.
And I have not at all been freezing. Literally freezing my toes off when I went Iceland pony tour riding last week, and literally froze so badly that I had to cry while my toes were defrosting.
Yeah. That did not happen to me.
No.
I was melting them in the sun.
You can enjoy the cold now. It is really, very, very cold.
You know, I'm in fact starting to peel because my skin is in shock from going from 35 degrees over here to minus 15. Yep. It's like, what's happened? And I'm like, it's okay, skin. And constantly, I will save your tan. I will save you.
Anyways. No, of course we are happy you had a lovely vacation.
Thanks everybody.
Even though,
but you know what happened? It's so typical that when you go away, all shit breaks loose at home, right?
Of course, yeah.
Because you're at home and you handle it and everything's locked down and everything's fine. Not that shit broke loose per se in business or home or anything, but everyone got sick or died. Yoan's grandma passed away while I was gone.
I'm so sorry.
She was in her 90s and she had dementia for the last 2 years, and then she didn't know who she was or any of us were at the end. So it's always sad to have a loss, no matter at the age that somebody is. But it's kind of at the same time peaceful to be would you want to live this? Would you want to live where you didn't know anything, or what time it was, or if you ate or didn't eat, or if you need to pee or not pee, those kinds of things. It's just, that was a loss that we knew was coming, but wasn't sure how. And then she passed away in her sleep. And so everything at the end of the day, it was a peaceful and wonderful life that she lived. So we're happy about that. And then my grandma went into the hospital because she had a urine infection that they didn't know about. She's living with my mom at the time, or right now. And the urine infection made her go crazy bananas in her brain.
But I've just learned about this.
Did you?
Yeah, because I watched Succession. Are you watching Succession?
Yeah, but I haven't seen any of the recent.
In one of the recent one, he goes piss mad, and this is what they call it. He gets a UTI, and apparently if you're over a certain age, you literally get piss mad. And there was an American president that attacked Belgium while being piss mad. It's they talk about it on the TV show. So I just learned that UTIs are really dangerous if you're old.
If you're old, yeah. She went bananas. She was just saying the craziest stuff, and my parents had no idea. And then she was slow-mo talking, and they were what's happening to this woman?
That's crazy.
And then she lost control of her bladder and things like that. So they're all right, we got to go and take her to the hospital. And that's what it turned out. But it turned out that she had this UTI that made her go bananas in her brain. And then it also turned sepsis. So she had to get all this antibiotics and stay for a week. And I was like, guys. And then my cousin, things happen in threes. Good Lord, I feel like this actually is true, that things happen in threes. My cousin, who's 30 years old, was playing hockey and he got an injury we don't know exactly how yet, whether it was puck or whatever. He's a goalie, so it could be anything. And he had a stroke.
Oh my God.
From an artery that burst while he had the injury from hockey. And then he was at the hospital after the stroke, and they were fixing stuff up, and then he had another stroke, and he had another fucking stroke. So he had 30 years old, 3 strokes in a day. And luckily he can talk and move his limbs and everything. So he is okay. But all of this crazy stuff happened while I was gone.
You're I am so relaxed on vacation.
So relaxed.
Let me just glue my phone to my ear so I can keep track of everything that's going on.
I did. I had my phone attached to my body, getting updates the whole time.
Mad.
So I've decided, no more vacations for a little hot minute, so that things can be a little bit healthier and calmer at home.
That is fully nuts. Oh my God. Yeah.
Right.
I thought you were all relaxed and chilled, but no. Okay. My week was actually way more relaxing. Did not have all of those crazy things happen. A little bit of writing, froze my fingers, you know, that kind of stuff. But apart from that, and I went to Yasuragi, which is this Japanese spa in Stockholm, for my 17th wedding anniversary, which is madness. Like, it's crazy being married that long. I don't know how we did it.
Is it because you feel like you're not older than 17? You know, it's like,
I'm like, did I get married at birth? What is this? No, I don't know. Like, it feels like forever. And then I look at my kid who's 14 and I'm like, oh, he is old. And my daughter this morning, she's like, Mom, in 4 years, I'll be 15 and Willem will be 18. And I'm like, shh. Don't talk about this. I am not ready. This seems much too old. Are we sure? Did someone do the math correctly? Because I'm not sure about this. Yeah, I think it's mostly that. So clearly 17 years makes sense considering my kid's 14. But, you know, it still feels like a really long time.
It's very long.
Yeah. And I found our wedding pictures and I look like a freaking... Like, did I show you my wedding face?
I think I
like
see.
A baby face.
Yeah.
I was like,
still have a baby
like
face, though.
But not like that. But anyways, it's on my personal Instagram, which is open for everyone if you want to go and look at my baby face wedding photo. Did you see
You were, in fact, a baby, though, because...
I was 22.
That is baby age.
Baby aged. Baby aged. Anyways. So, how much reading did you get done on vacation?
You know, that's something everybody asks me, and I always want to, I like really wish that I had like a huge number to say, like, I read 12 books, and you know, I read 2 books. But it's because I read Crescent City, the newest series by Sarah J. Maas, and it's 1,250 pages.
That is about 1,000 pages too many, I'd say. Probably with the story too. She could have probably shortened it down.
And you know what? What's my biggest pet peeve? Like, you know what my biggest peeves are in books, but like if I'm reading this big giant book, and what would be my biggest pet peeve if it happened? Everything happening at the end.
Yeah. And they probably did happen in
Everything
like the first,
fucking happened at the end. Last 100 pages, I had to be glued to the book because it was finally an info dump. But it not only was it a reveal of everything we've been wondering the whole book, but it all came from one character who like had the answers the whole time. So we followed this entire story, which was in large part like a detective story, which I am not so interested in reading most of the time, especially if it's coming from like where everybody are like creatures and stuff like that. And then it turned out that the whole detective thing was useless because the person knew all of the answers already, and then info dumped it at the end, and then all this crazy stuff happened. And then, of course, as you know, in typical Sarah J. Maas standards, the female character has all of the powers come to her at the end, and she is now super duper, highest, best, better than anybody else.
Of course. And she was probably Sarah from Whistler to begin with.
She was
kind of
close.
Sarah. Yeah.
She was close.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody was like pure human in this book. But
no, but still like average Jane kind of thing.
Well, she did a lot of drugs.
But it's funny, like the detective thing and the PI thing. I think that it's one of those things that we think is cool, but it's really not a very glamorous job. Like, it's a lot of research and it's like going through people's trash and whatnot. So I have no idea what a detective or a PI does. So clearly you can.
That's what we think. That's.
but it's like in the Rhapsodic book, like the Laura Thalassa, like the site, she was a PI.
She was a PI,
which was like. But why? And she must have been like the worst PI ever because she did no work, I think, in most of those books. Anyways, we did read, I did read quite a lot of books actually last week. Yeah. I got through quite a few. And I'm reading like a lot of books at the same time right now. So it's a bit hard to jump in between because I'm reading with my daughter as well. I'm reading Dash and Lily's Book of Dares.
Oh,
which is like,
cool.
We watched a TV show last year, so now we're reading the book. And I actually love it. And to the point where I like reading more than she does. So I'm like, can we read some Dash and Lily? And she's like, nah, I don't feel like it. And I'm like, can I read ahead? She's like, no.
Can I finish all 17 books?
Can I read all of it and then just tell you what happened? No. She says no. She is my husband showed me, she's a Scorpio, my daughter, because she's born in November. And he showed me a meme, which is hilarious. It's like someone pulling out a sword just a little bit and it says, I'm sorry. And it's like a Scorpio apology. And then he pulls the whole sword out. I'm sorry, you're too stupid to understand my sarcasm. And she's so like that.
Yeah.
My daughter, like she is full on proper Scorpio if you believe in like a November Scorpio too, not an October one. October ones are nicer apparently.
Are they nicer?
Yeah.
I know an October Scorpio, not so nice.
Yeah, no, but she's we did obviously the Chinese signs as well.
Okay.
She's a tiger and a Scorpio,
Cool.
so you know she's gonna be a feisty.
Fiery, yeah. I love that.
Yeah. But we did, what I read most actually is the Ace of Shades, which was the book of the week.
Yeah.
And it's by Amanda Foody. And I finished the first book and then I jumped straight into the second book and I finished that. And I'm now a third way into the third book, which is a little bit too long, the third book. But maybe it's because I feel like I've been listening to this nonstop for like forever.
And they're kind of long.
Yeah, the first one was shorter. The middle one was really long. And the third one is not quite as long as the middle one.
But shorter. The
kind
first
of.
one is still like 12 hours long.
Yeah, the second one's like 17 hours, and then the third one's like 16 or something like that. So it's still short. The first one is short compared to the other ones.
Whoa.
Where we left off the last time, we had our main girl, N, who was a goody two-shoes girl living in Bellamy, going to finishing school.
Yeah.
And her mother had disappeared. Her mother was Lord Zelfaro. And she'd gone missing. And Anne had gotten a letter saying, if I'm not back, go find this Levi Glacier guy. He will help you. So she travels to New Rains, also known as the City of Sin, and immediately falls into trouble with both the law and with street gangs. And she finds Levi, and he decides to help her, mostly because she will pay him. And he owns a lot of money because he's running this Ponzi scheme. This was basically what happened.
Because he's like owned by this woman, right? That's why.
But we didn't know that in those three first
Oh,
chapters. We didn't know
okay.
that
I thought
first.
you were
Yeah.
recapping them.
And then we find out that this, where they live, is a republic because all of the royal family were beheaded 25 years ago. So it starts at year one again. And there was like the great street gang war, and then it was the revolution. There's two events. And then, so we find out Levi takes N to see his boss at a casino. And her name is Bianca. And as soon as she meets N, she puts an omerta on N, which is basically a binding spell, which forces her to basically do what Bianca wants her to do. So she's now bound to her. And we find out throughout this book and the next that omertas cannot be broken. Like, they're lifelong. Like,
But they said it already in the first one, too.
and we find out in the second book, big spoiler for you here as well, that you cannot kill, if someone put an omerta on you, if that person die, you die with them. You're like literally tied to them. These books are their information continuously being added onto things. So whatever we thought we knew in book one, the game completely changes in book two, and then even changes even more in book three. So I'm going to know a bunch of stuff that you don't know here. So I might fill you in here and there, but I'll try not to spoil too much. And then I also have to apologize and do a little corrections corner for myself, because I accidentally called Cedric Torren. I called him Caesar in the last episode. That was not correct. His name is actually Cedric. And I actually realized, as I was listening to this, at one point she says SD, like Cedric Torren. I'm like, Cedric spelled with a C. What is this? So I actually read it for a little bit. And the spellings. Ha ha ha. Oh no. It is. No. It's spell hackers spelling on everything.
No.
So
Jason. No.
yeah. So Jack is JAC. Okay.
Okay.
Chess is CHEZ.
No.
Cedric is with an S. And Bianca is obviously with a V. And they're all of the spellings, and then it's the which I read about in the reviews. It's the made up curse words like muck instead of the F word, and shats, which is like crazy. Okay. They say it a lot.
Yeah,
it was a shats idea. I was being shats kind of thing. So. But basically in the story, Cedric is trying to get out of his Ponzi scheme that Bianca has made him do, which is like a Ponzi scheme is like an investment scheme where you pay old investors by getting new investors in, and you're basically cheating everyone. And it's great as long as people keep investing, but as soon as people stop, then the whole thing falls. And that's basically what happened. People are not investing anymore. But because Levi was the one running this, but Bianca took all the money, he now has to pay people back. So he is doing the paying back by taking money from his street gang, the Irons. So he's basically stealing money from his own gang. So they have no money, and they're kind of losing faith in him a bit. It's like they're not too pleased with him as their lord anymore. He receives a shadow card, the Fool, which marks him as a player in the Shadow Games. And the Shadow Games have apparently not run for the past 25 years or so. They happened around the time of the Revolution. But now clearly they are back because he receives the shadow cards. And when you touch the card, you get thrown into a vision. So he has this vision of this corridor with white and black doors, and he sees all of these things when he touches the cards. And you cannot choose what you see. It's like you get thrown into a vision.
Okay.
And it's the Phoenix Club that runs the Shadow Games. And the Phoenix Club is made up of really, really, really high profiled politicians, mainly like chancellors and so on and so forth. Rich people. And when you play, you don't play and win. You play to not lose, is what they keep saying.
Yeah.
And most people, they lose both the game and then their lives too, because you are not playing for money, you're playing for your life. And Levi does not tell Anne about this. And Anne Samerta is making her poison Cedric Torin, which she's not really upset about, because it turns out Cedric is a bit of a pedophile, likes his girls young.
Yeah.
And Bianca dresses Anne up like a little doll.
This is the beginning.
Yeah.
This is going to be a long summary, FYI.
Yeah, kind of. Anyways, she sends her to kill Cedric Torrens.
Yeah.
And she does the deed, but it marks her when she kills him. And Levi and Anne, together with Levi's second, Jack, and Lola, who is a girl who accidentally has become the first member of Anne's game, because she's like a blood gazer, so she can find out who Anne's real parentage is. Because at Bianca's casino, Anne gets paired up with the acrobatics troupe, and she's never done acrobatics, and she thinks she's of a dancer family, but then she turns out to be really good at acrobatics. So when Lola does the blood gazing, she figures out she's a Misa, which is the royal family's. And she figures out that she's part of the Dondele family, which was a really great, excellent acrobatics family, which is why she's so good at acrobatics. And because Lola finds out she's a Misa, and then has to tie her to her, because she can't go blurting about her Misa status to everyone, so she makes her swear to her, give her like a street oath, and that makes her a member of Anne's gang. And so now Anne is technically a street.
I love how she's like, it's at one point, and she's like, hey, so how does this whole, like, oath thing work?
Yeah. And the Levi and Jack and Lola are looking for lords, and they find out that she was a victim of the Shadow Game, and she died the day before Anne even made it to the city, so they just crossed paths kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Bianca sends... Well, first she sends... and to poison Cedric, and then she sends him to kill Cedric.
Yeah.
And he does. But as he's about to kill her, as she's about to kill him, he recognizes her, and he drugs her, and he takes her to the Shadow Game. And then she and Levi are together in the Shadow Games, where Anne is being forced to play for Levi's life, because Levi is really good at cards, and Anne, well, she's not so very good at cards.
Or maths.
So she's... playing, and it turns out there's only been one winner of this Shadow Game before, and that was Gabrielle, who is then Anne's mother, the miser, and she died anyways after playing the game. So she won the game, and then she was killed regardless. So yeah, not a lot of people walk away from this alive.
No.
But during this game, Anne's Misa powers kicks in, because they've been latent before then. And she manages to screw the game up, and then Levi manages to kill the Game Master, who also happens to be the Chancellor, Semper. And Anne also killed Cedric and this law enforcement guy called Shirk. And then now there's a bounty on their heads, and everyone thinks that Anne killed Semper, but it was actually Levi who did. And and now they have to go into hiding.
Yeah.
So Bianca calls up this woman, Sola, and she makes them hide with them. And Sola knew lords beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
They were part of the same monarchist hidden newspaper or something like that.
Yeah.
And Bianca's, with this power vacuum now left by the Chancellor Semper being killed, Bianca's son Harrison returns to the city of Sin. And there's a romance building between Levi and N, but they keep choosing not to act on it, like the whole time. Anytime one of them was always like, nah.
At one point I was certain that Levi was gay.
He is bi, and they say in the beginning that he likes pretty people.
Yeah, but there were like
girls.
much more men than women. Yeah. There was all men and like a couple women. And then he kisses a boy.
Narinder, which is really funny because she has the narrator, she has this very, very British accent. Yeah. And when I went in to read it, because I thought N's last name is Salter. Yeah. It's like Saltier or something like that. It's Salta.
Oh.
Salta.
Oh, because the A goes ER in British.
Yeah.
You're right.
And Narinder.
Yeah.
Is referred to as Norinda. And it took me a while. I'm like, is this a girl or is it a boy? But then I was like, it's Norinder. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm on board again.
Okay. But yeah, so he's kissing boys and sleeping with boys. And then there was this one scene where he's like touching her arm or hip or something. And she's like, if he went any lower, I wouldn't stop him. I wouldn't say no. And I was like, but he won't because...
He does, but I mean, this romance is going into the second book. She tries. This author is trying to build this romance, and I mean, I'm partway through book 3, and they have been together at this point. Okay, but I don't believe in them in a romantic sense. So it's meant to be like this eternal love, but they keep like lying to each other and backstabbing each other, and like they're not trustworthy with each other, and we keep being told that they want each other more than anyone else, but it's not quite there in their actions, and it's not very it's actually lacking a bit, and as these books go on, like there's more characters that's being put into this, because in the first it seems just that if they solve this financial scheme that Levi's in and they get out of the Shadow Games, all should be well. But then in the second book they bring in all of these other characters and this bigger plot and this gang war between the street gangs, and now in the third one it's like even bigger than that. Now it's like the whole Republic, and it's the Chancellors and the Bargainer, and it's all of these people. So the plot keeps getting bigger. It's not it's like an upside down funnel kind of thing, where we started small and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Which
that happens in the books that we just read, the Guild and Glint and Gleam.
Yeah,
because every book we found something new out and it changed the game.
Yeah,
like we thought the game was one thing and then I changed it even to the very end.
It does, but I would say that the Guild books does it better.
Oh, yeah.
Mainly because, and we should talk about that, because we talked about Guild last
by Raven
episode.
Kennedy.
And by the time we talked about it, I'd read the first book and maybe half of the second book.
And you refused to let me spoil anything.
Yes, I was very harsh on spoilers. But now...
Super harsh. You were angry at me when I would say something like, oh, he has a perspective. And you were like, stop it, Jerica. I'm like, what? That doesn't give anything away. And you're like, it means he's still alive. I'm like, of course he's still alive. He's a main character in this whole
The main characters can die.
Point of the book.
I'm just saying, I was really, really into these books. I wasn't very into it in the first book. In the second book, I kind of got really into it. And by the third book, I was like, I love these books. And I actually, when I finished the third book, I have done something I've never done before.
Tell me.
I went back and changed my review of the first book. And I went from like 3-star. I don't think I went all the way up to 5, but I went up and I wrote a long review on why I changed my star rating.
Oh.
Because in the first book, just the way those books are built, just from Oren's perspective, it's so well done.
So well done.
That in the first one, we're so frustrated with her because she keeps making all these stupid decisions, but it's because she's so traumatized and she's so deep into Stockholm syndrome and like she doesn't know better. And then as her world expands, as she learns things, as she meets people that she can trust, like her voice and her perspective changes, and it just opens this world, and she starts making different decisions, and it's so well done. And we need her to be that annoying, frustrating person in book one, because it pays off in the later books.
I know. It's so creative how she like masterfully planned the writing of the books too. Because like you were frustrated in the first book, and I'm like, no, but I think that I like that I hate them, because there's a reason why I'm supposed to hate them. And I was patient about it and thinking like this is going to turn around, but I didn't know how well it was going to turn around, or like how that she would stick to it. You know, some authors are like holding to it, and then once the like love story develops, and then like, okay, now we get sunshine and rainbows the rest of this book. But she didn't. No. She stuck to everything the entire time, and you could tell that it was a challenge to write. Like this wasn't something that you can just blah, 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 blurt out. No. She had to have planned all of these books first.
Yeah, for sure.
And then decided where she was going to put which information.
And there's 3 books out now. The 4th one comes out in May. But I think this series might have 5 or 6 books, if I understand things correctly.
Yeah, I think there's going to be 1 extra, but I don't know, 6. I didn't see that.
We'll see, I guess. Yeah. But the story is not done. It's still developing. And it is and the cliffhanger.
That was torturous.
It is torturous.
It was torture. But I was like, immediately we need to ask for an arc.
Raven, can we have an arc?
Can we have a book, please?
But
I will read it in a day. Like I devoured these books.
But even in these Ace of Shades book, like having read onwards, this author has clearly done her plan as well.
Her plan too, yeah.
Because the things that I was frustrated in when we talked about this book last week is like Levi was 11 when he started his street gang, and why would Lords send him to him when he was like 12 when they met the last time, and so on and so forth. But this all gets explained in book 3 where like there's reasons for all of this, and it comes together, and it's also, in a way, it's not as well done as the Raven Kennedy one, but we are growing with N. Like the more she learns about New Reigns, and the more she learns about City of Sin, and the more it comes together, kind of thing. But leaving all of these excellently written, planned stories, we are switching modes and jumping straight into Christmas, because it is December now. It is December 1st. It is December, and my house has been fully decorated for like a week now. It is a lot.
We haven't decorated yet.
Well, my daughter was sick last week, so I gave her all the Christmas decorations. So now our house is decorated fully.
Nice.
And our choice of books, we had a very random list.
Like none of these look readable.
But honestly, I chose this book mostly because the author's name is Jenny Holiday.
Oh, that's
Holiday.
Holiday. I didn't pick that up.
This book is called A Princess for Christmas, and it is exactly what you think it's going to be. It's a fake European country.
But it's worse. It's actually worse because
it's like this Netflix. There's like these princess movies on Netflix where.
But this is like the children's one, because it's like told already by the little girl who just got her period and her older brother, who's like this taxi driver, and she's like,
super
look, there's a princess on the side of the street. Yeah, let's pick her up. She's got a bodyguard and some other skinny tall guy with them.
So it's called A Princess for Christmas, and it's about Leo, who's, like you said, a cab driver.
But is it about Leo? Because his sister Gabriella is the one that seems like she's mostly in the narration.
No, but we get Leo's perspective and Marie's perspective. We don't get Gabby's.
When do we get their perspective? Because everything is in the third person.
No, we follow Leo, and then we follow Marie, and then we follow Leo, and then we follow Marie.
But right now, I'm 1 hour into the book.
Are you listening?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm reading it. It's Leo perspective and Marie perspective.
Oh my god. I'm listening
None
to
of it is Gabby perspective. Okay, so Leo is a cab driver and a super for an apartment complex in New York City. He takes care of his sister Gabby, who is 11. Their parents are dead, have been dead for 2 years, and they died on Christmas. Marie is a princess of Eldovia, who is a who is a country between Switzerland and Austria in the Alps towards the German border. And she just gave a speech at the UN. Now she needs to get to a party on a yacht to have a meeting with someone about trade, because this person will not take an official meeting with her, so she needs to ambush him at this party. Leo is driving Gabby and his dog Max home from a show when they pick up Marie, even though Leo is not technically on duty, and it's mostly because Gabby wants him to pick up her
princess.
up. Yeah, so this person Marie is attempting to have a meeting with is a luxury watch shop chain owner or something like that, and Eldovia is funded mostly on their luxury watches. 17% of their gross national product or something if he drops their account. And will have financial trouble if this Philip Gregory person pulls his account. Marie calls Leo because he leaves his card with her. So she calls him after the party. She had an awful time and she's hiding in a bush, and he comes and picks her up. She's upset. He cheers her up. This is where chapter 3 ends.
Okay. I'm so happy that you're reading this book, because listening to it, he's like an awful voice, because it's a female narrator and she's making his like accent to the like a New York City taxi driver accent.
He's Italian American. Okay, fair enough. I'm reading it. I will continue reading it, because I'm listening to the third Ace of Shades book, where they changed the narrative for the third book, and I no longer know who anyone is by their voice and their accent, because they don't sound the same. So this is also a thing.
Do you know that they did that in the dubbed version of Money Heist, the TV show on Netflix that everyone's obsessed with? In the first season, it's these narrators, and then in the second season it's new ones. It's like, this is not the same person. I know that it looks like the same person, but the dubbed voice is different, and it totally changes who you like and don't like. Anyways, so the reason why I said that thought that this was in the kids' perspective was because they talk mostly about the kid, and so far the narrator is female. And she's doing the kid's voice, and then the man's voice, and then Marie's voice also.
Yeah.
But it doesn't ever say, like, anything in the first person.
Okay, but when you're reading it, you can tell who it is. And it's like a little switch, and then it's the next person, and it's from their perspective kind of thing. So what do you predict? I have...
oh, good Lord.
I mean, I predict that this is a Hallmark movie or a Netflix Princess Switch movie, or that one with the journalist. That movie, which has now 3 movies where they have babies and whatnot. Yeah, and I predict here that Leo will help Marie secure the watch contract, or modernize the watch thing, whatever. They will then fall madly in love and will move to Eldovia and live happily ever after with Gabby and Danny.
Okay. Well, I have one question. Is this author Canadian?
I don't know.
Because how funny is it that you're reading it? So I don't know if you picked up on it, but I picked up on it so much because she was talking out loud. And they're making fun of how Americans see Europe.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yes.
And I was like, oh, this author cannot be American, because this is how Canadians feel about Americans. I mean, Canadians are also not amazing at geography either.
This author is European.
Yeah, maybe the author's European, writing as if she's an American and being like, oh, yeah, you know, this is between this place and that place, and there are Alps there. Like, as if she's like talking to a baby American.
But it's a lot of like we don't want... I read ahead a little bit, but it's like, we don't want smartwatches because we live in the Alps, so we don't care how far we walk. And I'm like...
That makes no sense. You definitely need smartwatches because you get stuck in a crevasse. You need to.
No, but it's like step counter, I guess.
Step counter.
I'm like, yeah, no, I think people in the Alps still want smartwatches.
This whole watch situation is throwing me for a loop. I'm not so sure a watch contract is going to save any country's gross
70%
domestic.
of their GDP.
That is excessive.
Yeah.
My prediction is that she's going to fall in love with the New York City taxi driver, and I was going to also say adopt the daughter, but it's not the daughter, it's the sister.
But they will raise her together.
They will raise her together, and they will move to Eldovia.
Eldovia.
Moldovia. Sorry, that wasn't the princess.
Moldovia is an actual country.
Well, what was the one in the princess?
It's Aldovia, I think. With an A. But I'm not sure. We will see. We will keep you posted.
Okay.
I think you can all predict
Stay
along
tuned,
with
everyone.
us. Yes.
You've got to pick up this book. I promise you'll read it in just a couple hours.
Yeah, it's not very long.
And
You'll
skip
be
to
fine.
the end because you'll miss nothing. in
Honestly,
between.
you can probably with this book just open random chapters and just read them out of order, and you probably get the whole story anyways. I'm sure this will be
Oh,
fun.
do you know what I realized also about reading these like Hallmark kind of movie books? Because I read when I was on vacation, the other book that I read was this Sophie Kinsella, she's the shopaholic author. And it was a rom-com, and it was sweet and cute, and at the very end, they kiss, and then the book is done. And I was like, no, Hallmark movie. I need to know what happens.
Ends with a kiss.
Are they going to actually be together? Is she going to leave her husband? Is there going to be more to the story? No. We will never freaking know. Thank
Never
you.
know.
Thank you, rom-com
No
Hallmark.
complications.
Storylines, you kill me.
It ends with a kiss.
Just like all stories do.
Happily ever after. It's like Disney princess. It ends with a kiss. And the wedding. But mostly the kiss.
Right? They at least have some storyline.
A wedding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Not the new princess movies, not the new Disney ones. Now they don't even have love interests anymore, which I love that. But
because it's kind of weird to have a lot of interest when you're 4 years old watching a movie.
this is very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's not necessary. So
And then they have like excellent lines like we finish each other's sandwiches. That's what I was gonna say about Frozen.
My 4-year-old daughter asked me if she could also have a baby in her belly this week.
You told her later.
My husband looked at her. She was like, no.
No.
That was her Christmas present.
You were like, look, when you're no longer a baby, maybe we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening.
All right,
read along with this Hallmarky, floofy,
Happy
fluffy.
reading.
No moral of the story message.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Merry Christmas. Bye. We'd Rather Be Reading is an original podcast by Jerika Seron and Leah Sanfo. The music for The Penguins, written and performed by David Allred from the album The Transition, courtesy of Erased Tapes. Please check him out on Spotify and check us out on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at We'd Rather Be Reading and on Twitter at We'd Rather Read. You can also email us at we'dratherbereadingthepod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.